I transformed my body and life after years of being bullied, from fat, invisible, and broken to confident, fit, and unstoppable. I never thought college would feel like high school with a worse dress code. And here I am, sitting at the back corner of the cafeteria, hoodie pulled over my head, earbuds in, pretending to be somewhere else entirely, while the chatter around me swirls like a hurricane I can't escape. My name is AITA. I'm 21, and for as long as I can remember, I've been fat. Not just a little chubby, but the kind of fat that makes people feel comfortable commenting on your body in the middle of a hallway like it's public property. Middle school was where it started. I can still hear the whispers in the locker room, the snickers when I tripped over my own feet in gym class, the cruel little notes shoved into my locker that read things like, maybe you should just disappear, or why do you even try? High school didn't get any better. By then, the teasing was almost institutionalized. Teachers would throw offhand remarks about health in a class discussion while I shrank into my seat, pretending I wasn't the target. And don't get me started on social media. Screenshots of my awkward moments went viral among my peers. I became a meme without even knowing it. Now, in college, I thought things might change. I thought people might be more mature. But maturity, I've learned, is often overrated. The stares, the judgment, the little snide comments, they followed me like a shadow. I keep to myself mostly. My wardrobe consists of oversized hoodies, baggy sweatpants, and sneakers. Comfort is my armor, and invisibility is my shield. I skip parties, avoid group study sessions that involve meeting new people, and eat lunch at odd times just to dodge the cafeteria's harsh spotlight. Today was worse than usual. It started with group project assignments. I was paired with 3 girls from my sociology class. At first, it seemed harmless. They were polite. Too polite, maybe. But then the teasing started. Subtle at first. "Aaliyah, can you maybe sit somewhere else? You're kind of taking up a lot of space," one of them said, smirking. I laughed it off, of course. What else could I do? But the laughter that followed wasn't from me. It was cruel and sharp, echoing in my ears long after the words were spoken. Then there was the cafeteria. I thought I could eat quietly at my usual table, headphones in, invisible, but one of the girls from my group project spotted me and decided to invite her friends over. "Oh my god, Aaliyah, are you seriously eating that?" she said, pointing at my sandwich like I was a spectacle. The table erupted into laughter. My cheeks burned, my ears rang, and all I could do was stare at my half-eaten sandwich, wishing I could melt into the table. It doesn't even matter what I ate, apparently. Anything is fair game. The sugar, the carbs, my existence. The humiliation was a dull, constant ache, the kind that gnaws at your soul in small, persistent bites. I thought I'd learned to tune it out, to laugh along, to ignore. But today, something snapped. Gym class was the final straw. Our professor decided we'd do partner workouts, which meant I had to pair up with someone. And of course, no one volunteered. I ended up with Kyle from my economics class. He's cute in that obnoxious, effortless way that makes you want to punch him and cry at the same time. But as we were stretching, he leaned over and muttered loud enough for half the gym to hear. Maybe you should have worn something looser. You might, fit better." The laughter was instant. My face burned hotter than any treadmill I'd ever been on. I could feel the sweat on my back, but it wasn't from exercise. It was from shame, pure and unrelenting, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't brush it off. I didn't laugh nervously. I just felt everything. The years of whispers, jokes, online screenshots, cafeteria stares, middle school horror stories, and high school cruelty, all of it poured into me like a flood I couldn't control. I fled the gym. Literally ran out, ignoring the professor calling my name, ignoring the side eyes from everyone watching me leave. I didn't care. All I could think was, why me? Why is this my life? Why does my existence make other people feel like they have a right to laugh at me? I sat on the curb outside the gym, hoodie shielding me from the world, and just let it out. Tears streamed down my face, hot and furious, as if my body had been holding this pain for 21 years and finally decided to release it all at once. My chest hurt, my stomach ached from knots of shame, and I wanted nothing more than to disappear. I hated my body. I hated what it represented to the world. Weakness, failure, invisibility. And yet, in the middle of all that crying, something shifted. A small, stubborn spark flickered inside me. Amid the self-loathing, amid the despair, I found a thought I hadn't entertained in years. I am tired. I am tired of feeling like this. I am tired of letting people's opinions dictate my life. I am tired of hiding. That night, alone in my dorm room, I stared at myself in the mirror. I avoided mirrors for years because they reminded me of everything I hated. But now, I couldn't look away. I saw the swollen, tear-stained eyes, the round cheeks, the soft jawline, the roles that always made me the target of jokes. And for the first time, I didn't see just a failure. I saw a challenge. I whispered to myself, barely audible, "Enough. I'm tired of letting this define me. I need to change." And that was it. That was the turning point. The moment I decided my life could no longer be dictated by fear, by shame, by other people's laughter. I didn't know exactly how I would do it. I didn't know what steps I would take, what sacrifices I would make, or how long it would take. I only knew that I couldn't keep living like this. I pulled out my phone and typed a note. "Start tomorrow, one step at a time, no excuses." Then I stared at it for a while, reading the words over and over, letting them sink in like a mantra. And somewhere deep inside, buried under years of pain, fear, and self-loathing, I felt the tiniest flicker of hope. It wasn't a solution, it wasn't a magic fix, but it was a beginning. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. I didn't hit snooze, I didn't linger under the blankets. I put on my sneakers, threw on a hoodie I knew wouldn't attract attention, and stepped outside. The campus was quiet at this hour, the air crisp and sharp, and for the first time in years, I felt free. Not free from my body, not free from the past, but free to start. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know which gym to join, which diet to follow, which exercises to do. But I had determination, and for now, that was enough. On the walk to the campus gym, I caught glimpses of myself in store windows. I didn't look at my body the way I used to, with disgust or shame. I looked at it like a project, like clay waiting to be molded. It was ugly, yes. Flawed, yes. But it was mine. And I had the power to change it. As I signed up for a beginner's membership, the receptionist handed me a schedule and smiled. "You'll love the classes," she said cheerfully, and for some reason, I believed her. Maybe because for the first time in forever, someone didn't see me as a joke. Maybe because for the first time in forever, I saw a possibility. I started slow, walking on the treadmill for 10 minutes, lifting the tiniest dumbbells, drinking more water than I ever thought possible, learning about nutrition, reading stories of people who had transformed their lives inspired by them. Each night, I felt a small shift. Tightness in my arms, a little energy I didn't have before, a spark of pride. But the mental battle was the hardest. Every time I looked in the mirror, the old voice in my head whispered, "You'll never be good enough. You'll always be the joke." I wanted to scream at it. I wanted to silence it forever. But instead, I learned to fight it with action, to prove that little voice wrong, one step at a time. The cafeteria still haunted me. Group projects were still a minefield of whispered insults. Gym class still made my stomach twist in knots. But slowly, imperceptibly, I began to notice something. I was standing taller. My hoodie didn't feel like armor anymore. It felt like comfort. And most importantly, I started to feel a glimmer of pride in me. Not for anyone else's approval, not for anyone else's standards, just for Aaliyah. That night, I wrote in my journal, "Today, I took my first real step. I cried less, I walked taller, I feel maybe a little bit like myself." And I meant it. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I'd ever fully escape the past or the cruelty of people who couldn't see past my body. But I knew this. I was done letting them win. I was done letting fear and shame rule my life. For the first time in a long time, I felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The fear of the hard work ahead and the excitement of finally taking control. For years, I had been invisible. For years, I had been the joke, the target, the shadow in the corner. But that day, in the quiet hum of the campus gym, I made a promise. I would no longer be defined by their laughter. I would no longer be defined by their judgment. I would take my life back, body, mind, and soul. And that was just the beginning. I still remember my first day at the gym like it happened yesterday. I walked in feeling like I was about to step onto a stage in front of 100 people who were all judging me silently, waiting for me to fail. My hoodie hung awkwardly on my frame, sneakers squeaking against the polished floor as I tried not to make eye contact with anyone. Every reflection in the mirror screamed at me, "You don't belong here. You'll never change." And yet, I didn't leave. I took a deep breath, reminded myself of that quiet promise I'd made the night before. I'm done letting them win. The receptionist handed me a membership card with a smile that somehow felt like validation. "Welcome. You'll love the classes," she said. I nodded, mumbling a thanks, feeling like a fraud. I didn't love anything yet. I wasn't even sure I liked myself enough to deserve a change. Then came my trainer, Jason. He was in his late 20s, with a calm energy that made me immediately feel less like a spectacle and more like a person. He didn't flinch at my size. He didn't whisper behind his hand or give me the "good luck, honey," patronizing tone I'd grown used to. He just said, "Let's start small, one step at a time." And for the first time, I believed it could be true. Our first session was laughably basic. I walked on a treadmill for 10 minutes, then 5 minutes of stretching, then some lightweight dumbbell curls. Jason watched my form, corrected gently, and never pushed me beyond what I could handle. But even this felt like climbing Everest. My muscles ached in ways I hadn't felt in years. My lungs burned, and every time I glanced at the mirror, I felt exposed, every flaw magnified. The first week was a mental war. I wanted to quit constantly. I wanted to hide in my dorm room, order pizza, and pretend I'd never made this stupid decision. I craved comfort foods, the sugary snacks and greasy fries that had been my solace for years. There were nights I fought tears of frustration, sitting cross-legged on my bedroom floor, telling myself, just one cheat won't ruin everything. But tomorrow, start again. Jason introduced me to a few basics about nutrition. Nothing extreme, nothing terrifying, just simple changes. More protein, more vegetables, less refined sugar. I didn't track every calorie obsessively. I just learned to pay attention to what my body really needed. It was surprisingly liberating. My relationship with food, which had been a constant source of shame, started to feel like something I could manage rather than something that managed me. Then came the subtle victories. The first time I noticed my pants feeling a little looser. The first time I could walk up a flight of stairs without my heart hammering like a jackhammer. The first time I ran an extra minute on the treadmill and actually felt proud. And the gym, it stopped feeling like a terrifying place. I met a few other regulars who became sort of my unofficial cheerleaders. There was Mia, a petite engineering student who ran like she was born to do it, but she always smiled at me and gave tips about form or shared her post-workout smoothie recipes. There was also Mark, a gym veteran with a contagious sense of humor who insisted I wasn't half bad at deadlifts, which I definitely was at first. Even my dorm friend group noticed changes. Tara, my roommate, would check in with, "Hey, saw you posted that workout selfie anonymously online. Proud of you." I blushed every time because that was the thing. I was starting to share little parts of this journey, cautiously, quietly. And when I saw positive comments, even anonymous likes, it was like oxygen to my lungs. I realized I could feel pride in myself, independent of anyone else's approval. But of course, life didn't magically get easier. The bullying didn't stop entirely. One day, in the library, I overheard someone whisper, "Did you see Aaliyah trying to run on the treadmill? She's still huge." Another time, a classmate snorted when I mentioned I was working out, but something had shifted inside me. The words no longer cut as deep. I shrugged. I ignored. I let them exist without letting them own me. I was beginning to understand that mental strength was just as important as physical progress. Weeks turned into months. I learned to track progress, celebrate small wins, and forgive myself when I slipped. I lost 10 pounds in the first 2 months. It wasn't earth-shattering, but it was real. I could finally fit into a pair of jeans I hadn't touched in over a year. I smiled in the mirror instead of grimacing. I took a gym selfie, posted it anonymously to a student fitness forum, and my heart raced like 1,000 fireworks as I watched the likes come in. Not because I needed validation, but because I was seeing proof that I was capable. One morning, after a particularly grueling session of squats and lunges, Jason said, "Aaliyah, you're stronger than you think. You've been hiding from the world for too long, and it's time you showed yourself what you can do." And I believed him. Not because of the words themselves, but because of how I felt. I could feel my body changing, my muscles waking up, my energy rising. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was actively creating a new life. I discovered the joy of tiny victories. The first time I did 10 push-ups without collapsing in a heap. The first time I could jog around the track without stopping. The first time I caught my reflection and actually smiled. Not because of who saw me, but because I saw me. It wasn't perfect. I still had bad days. Days where I ate junk out of stress or skipped workouts out of fatigue or shame. Days where I wanted to crawl back into invisibility and hide. But the difference now was that I had a choice. I could decide to continue, to push through, to fight for myself. And I did, every single time. Nutrition, too, became a part of my life rather than a punishment. I learned about protein shakes, meal prepping, and why certain foods made me sluggish or bloated. I experimented with salads, grilled chicken, and roasted vegetables. I started feeling energized, not deprived. And the mental shift was remarkable. What used to feel like restriction now felt like empowerment. I was taking control of my body, my mind, and my future. By the end of the semester, the changes were noticeable. My friends commented on my confidence. Tara said, "You walk differently now, like you own yourself." And for the first time, I realized I did. It wasn't about being the thinnest or the most attractive. It was about showing up every day and proving to myself that I mattered, that I deserved to feel strong and proud. Even the subtle bullying faded in impact. I overheard a whisper in the hallway about my gym obsession, and I laughed, because it didn't sting anymore. It couldn't. I had grown stronger than their words. I had learned the power of persistence, the value of patience, and the thrill of watching incremental progress turn into real results. I remember one particularly surreal moment. I tried on an old hoodie I'd worn during freshman year. It used to strangle me, pinch my sides, and make me miserable. Now, it hung comfortably, and I could move without feeling trapped. I took a photo and posted it anonymously on the student forum. The comments were supportive, some even saying it inspired them to start their own fitness journeys. I stared at the screen, stunned. Me? Inspiring someone else? That felt unreal. By the end of the semester, I had started to understand a new truth. This journey wasn't just about losing weight or building muscle. It was about reclaiming myself, rewriting my story, and finding a version of me that I could respect and love. And for the first time, I believed that maybe, just maybe, I could do it. Aaliyah, the girl who had once hidden in hoodies and tears, was starting to emerge. She was fragile, yes, and insecure, yes, but also resilient, determined, and unstoppable in ways she hadn't known she could be. And that realization, more than any number on a scale, was the fuel that kept me going, because this was just the beginning. I remember the first morning I caught a glimpse of myself in the full-length mirror in the dorm hallway and didn't look away in horror. That morning, something felt different. The reflection staring back at me didn't shrink or flinch. My shoulders were straighter, my stomach slimmer, my face brighter, and my skin had that healthy glow I hadn't seen in years. I had been working at this for over 6 months, countless hours of cardio, lifting, Meal prepping, sweat, and sore muscles, and for the first time it wasn't subtle. The change was unmistakable. I wasn't just lighter, I was alive. The glow up wasn't just in the mirror, I felt it in the way people interacted with me, and it was surreal. Classmates who barely noticed me before suddenly glanced twice. Former bullies, once smug and dismissive, paused mid-sentence when I walked by like they weren't sure what to say to me anymore. It was a strange mixture of satisfaction and discomfort seeing their reactions, but I forced myself to stay grounded. I didn't do this for them. I did this for me. Even my posture changed. I walked into the lecture halls differently now. Shoulders back, chin up, exuding a confidence I had been faking for years. I caught Kyle, the guy from gym class who had once whispered about my looser clothes, looking at me and quickly looking away, eyes wide. I almost laughed, not mockingly, just in disbelief at how far I had come. The gym had become my sanctuary. Every drop of sweat, every aching muscle, every early morning or skipped late night party had built this new version of me. I had toned arms that flexed without embarrassment, a midsection that didn't jiggle as much, and legs that carried me faster and stronger than I ever imagined. My diet had become second nature. I didn't crave the junk food like I used to, or if I did, I could control it. For the first time, I felt a sense of mastery over myself. Socially, things were shifting in ways I hadn't anticipated. People invited me to lunch now without hesitation. Friends I had barely spoken to in the past were striking up conversations. It felt weird at first, almost alien. I kept waiting for the punchline, for them to slip in a subtle jab or awkwardly try to catch me off guard again, but it didn't happen. I realized slowly, this was genuine. That's when I noticed jealousy. Not subtle jealousy either. I'd been invisible for so long that my emergence into visibility made certain people uncomfortable. One afternoon, I overheard a group of girls whispering in the library. "She thinks she's something now," one hissed. "All that gym time and attention, it's ridiculous." I didn't argue, didn't retaliate. I just kept walking, internally cheering myself for being able to shrug it off. For the first time, I realized that not everyone's opinion mattered. The attention wasn't all bad. For the first time, I experienced people noticing my personality rather than just my body. Or maybe because of my newfound confidence, my personality shone more clearly. I laughed louder in group discussions, spoke up in class, shared opinions without fear. My intellect was being recognized. My kindness and humor were being noticed. And that, I realized, was the ultimate glow up. Not just the visible changes, but the inner ones that radiated outward. Romantically, things started to shift too. I met Alex in one of my philosophy classes. He wasn't the type who threw compliments casually. Instead, he noticed the little things. The way I correct someone gently in a debate. The way I encouraged shy classmates to participate. The way I laughed, not fake, not nervous, but genuinely. I could feel him noticing, and it made me nervous and excited at the same time. Not because I wanted him to like me. It had nothing to do with validation, but because it was a sign that my growth was being recognized on every level. Old insecurities resurfaced occasionally, though. I'd catch a glimpse of a stretch mark in the mirror, feel a pang of doubt when a former classmate gave a smirk, or remember the years of cruel jokes. But each time, I countered it with proof of my progress. Every drop of sweat, every meal carefully prepared, every morning I chose to rise early and work on myself. They all reminded me that I had the power now. I wasn't defined by my past. I was defined by my choices in the present. I also started exploring new social circles. Fitness classes introduced me to people passionate about health, motivation, and self-improvement. Book clubs and student organizations introduced me to intellectually stimulating conversations I had avoided before out of self-consciousness. I started volunteering with campus wellness programs, helping others navigate their own fitness and mental health journeys. It felt amazing to give back, to take the empowerment I'd earned and extend it to someone else struggling in the way I once had. Every little victory reinforced my self-respect. One day, I wore a dress I'd bought months ago, but never had the courage to wear. It was tight in all the right places, accentuating curves I had worked hard to shape. I walked into class and noticed the heads turning, not in mockery, but curiosity, admiration, maybe even respect. And when I caught Alex's eye, smiling politely from across the room, my stomach flipped, not in fear, but in anticipation. I had become a person I was proud to present to the world. Even the mirrors I had once avoided became a friend. I look at my reflection and feel a sense of ownership. I had sculpted not just my body, but my life. I had created something from the inside out. The gym, the early mornings, the disciplined meals, the mental battles. They all culminated in the person I saw staring back at me. Confident, resilient, unstoppable. Yet, this chapter of my life wasn't without drama. Some former bullies tried awkwardly to reconnect or suddenly act friendly. Others whispered in hallways or gave side glances that were barely concealed. I learned to navigate these situations with grace, smiling politely, not letting them see the fire they tried to ignite. I realized quickly that my glow up was as much about emotional intelligence as physical strength. I had learned to carry myself with dignity, no matter the attention, good or bad. Alex became more of a presence in my life, but slowly. intentionally. We had long conversations after class, shared study sessions, and philosophical debates that stretched hours. He never commented on my body directly. He noticed my confidence, my kindness, my humor, my intellect, and slowly I realized that attraction wasn't about someone seeing the physical change, it was about someone seeing the real me and valuing it. Friends began turning to me for advice, fitness tips, study strategies, mental health conversations. It was surreal, but I embraced it. I was no longer the quiet, invisible girl hiding behind hoodies and shame. I had become a person people wanted to include, to notice, to engage with, and the confidence that radiated from me was infectious. I felt like I could take on anything. Even the small things mattered. I noticed my energy lasting through classes without needing endless snacks. I could climb stairs without breathlessness. I laughed freely at jokes without worrying about how I looked. I smiled at strangers, and sometimes they smiled back. I was finally participating in life instead of observing it from the sidelines. By the end of this chapter of my life, I realized something critical. The glow up wasn't just a transformation in how the world saw me. It was about how I saw myself. I was learning to love me, not just my body, but my mind, my voice, my heart. I had embraced my passions, engaged with new circles, and discovered that my worth was never dependent on anyone's judgment. Walking past the mirror one evening, I caught my reflection mid-laugh, hair bouncing, skin glowing, muscles toned, and confidence spilling out in waves. I stopped and whispered to myself, Aaliyah, look at you. You're unstoppable. You've earned this, and this is only the beginning. Because the truth was clear now. Life didn't have to be defined by the past. It didn't have to be shaped by the cruelty of others or the insecurities I once carried. I had the power to create my story, sculpt my body, and live a life that reflected my worth. And as I left the gym that night, heart full, spirit soaring, I realized that no mirror, no whisper, no judgment could ever take that away from me. If you had asked me a year ago where I'd be today, I wouldn't have had the courage to even dream it. I was the girl who hid behind hoodies, who avoided mirrors, who cringed every time someone mentioned the cafeteria or gym. And now I hardly recognize the girl I see in the mirror or the person I've become. The transformation wasn't just physical. Sure, my body had changed dramatically, my arms had definition, my stomach was toned, and my legs carried strength I'd never known. But the real change was inside. The confidence, the resilience, the refusal to let anyone else define my worth. The glow up wasn't a secret anymore. It was impossible to ignore, and I loved it. Not because anyone else admired me, but because I finally admired myself. The first time I felt the full weight of that transformation in a social setting, I couldn't stop smiling. It was during the spring semester's campus gala, a semi-formal event I had avoided the previous year. I had hesitated before accepting the invitation this time, worried about attention, judgment, old insecurities. But Tara, my roommate, had insisted. You need to celebrate yourself, Aaliyah. You've earned it. So I did. I wore a deep emerald dress that hugged my curves in the places I had sculpted with sweat and dedication, my hairstyle naturally, glowing skin reflecting the soft lighting of the hall. I walked into that room and immediately felt the shift. Conversation paused, eyes turned, and there they were, the girls from my sophomore year, the ones who had laughed at me in group projects, the ones who had whispered behind my back in the cafeteria, the ones who had tried to define me with cruelty. They froze. Not a single word came out of their mouths. I could see the shock, the recognition, and yes, a little regret. I didn't gloat. I didn't even approach them. I simply smiled, held my head high, and let my presence speak for itself. In that moment, I realized something vital. Victory doesn't always come from confrontation. Sometimes it comes from thriving while others try to hold you back. And thriving, I had mastered. The night continued, and I realized how much I had grown beyond physical appearance. People approach me now, not to comment on my weight, but to engage with me, my ideas, my humor, my warmth. Alex, who had become more than a friend, stayed close. He admired me in ways that went far beyond the surface. He noticed my patience, my empathy, my drive. For the first time, I felt a romantic connection that wasn't tied to my appearance, but to who I truly was. We danced, laughed, and shared quiet moments, and it felt real. Not an escape, not a validation, just two people connecting genuinely. But I didn't stop at personal glory. I knew what it was like to feel invisible, to be bullied, to feel trapped in a body that everyone else thought defined your worth. And now that I had reclaimed myself, I wanted to help others do the same. I started volunteering with the campus wellness center, hosting beginner-friendly fitness sessions, giving nutrition tips, and sharing my own story in workshops about self-esteem and body positivity. The first session I led was terrifying. Standing in front of 20 students, most of whom had never seen me outside the gym or knew my journey, I could feel my heart pounding. But then I began speaking, and something magical happened. I shared my struggles, every tear, every moment of shame, every early morning in the gym when I wanted to quit. I shared the victories too, the small wins that built into real transformation. By the end of the session, students were standing, applauding, sharing their own experiences. I realized that my story had power, that my vulnerability could inspire others to fight for themselves. Helping others gave me a different kind of high. Seeing a freshman smile because they completed their first push-up, watching someone realize they could control their diet without feeling deprived, or hearing a student say, You make me believe I can change. Those were moments that made all the early mornings, the sore muscles, the tears of frustration completely worth it. My transformation had become more than physical. It had become a catalyst for change in others. Even Alex noticed. One afternoon, after a workshop, he said softly, "Aaliyah, watching you today, you're incredible. Not just how you look, but who you are. I don't think I've ever met anyone so strong and inspiring." My chest swelled. Those words were different from compliments on appearance. They were rooted in recognition of my journey, my persistence, my heart. And in that moment, I realized the truth. My glow up wasn't just for me, but for everyone who needed proof that transformation was possible. Of course, life still had its challenges. Former bullies occasionally tried to approach, awkwardly attempting friendship, or passive-aggressively commenting on my new life. But I had learned to handle it with grace, patience, and boundaries. I didn't need to prove anything to them. Their opinions no longer held the power to define my worth. I had rewritten the rules of my life, and they were irrelevant in this new chapter. By the end of the semester, I had become something I never thought possible, unrecognizable from my old self, not only physically, but emotionally and mentally. I was thriving academically, socially, and personally. My confidence was undeniable, my friendships genuine, and my relationship with Alex blossoming naturally. And as I walked across campus one sunny afternoon, I realized something powerful. I was unstoppable. Standing in front of the campus fountain, I reflected on the journey, the years of bullying, the nights of tears, the moments of doubt, the first small victories, the slow but steady progress. I thought about the girl who once hid in hoodies, afraid to eat in public, ashamed of her body. And now I was standing tall, helping others, celebrated for my dedication, confident in my abilities, and loved for who I truly was. I whispered to myself, almost as a mantra, "I am Aaliyah. I am strong. I am capable. I am unstoppable." And for the first time in my life, it wasn't just words, it was truth. This wasn't the end, it was only the beginning. But I knew one thing for certain. I had transformed my life completely. I had taken the pain of years of bullying and turned it into motivation, the shame into confidence, the isolation into purpose. I was no longer the underdog. I was a legend in my own right, not because of anyone else's recognition, but because I had claimed it for myself. And that, more than anything, was the ultimate victory. Alright, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the story. We have so many more amazing stories coming your way, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Our goal is to reach 100K subscribers by the end of this year, and we'd love for you to be part of this journey. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.